"I'm unemployed now, just like you wanted," Lyra said, her voice tinged with faux triumph. "You'll have to cover the mortgage yourself." Lyra had been planning a harmless little prank on her husband Jareth to celebrate her recent promotion at work. But then, by sheer chance, she overheard a conversation that would turn everything upside down. Lyra Wynne never imagined an ordinary Tuesday could append her entire life. May 22nd dawned bright and clear, as if the universe itself whispered, "Brace yourself, everything's about to change." But who could predict from which direction the winds of change would come? At 38, Lyra often felt as if her life had slipped into a monotonous loop. Home, work, a recycled track on endless repeat. It seemed like the major turning points of her life were long behind her, leaving only a slow, inevitable drift toward retirement. Her mother always teased, "Life truly begins after 40. Let's see if that's true. Pulling her 15-year-old Nissan Altura into the office parking lot, Lyra felt a pang of stubborn pride. The car was old but dependable, despite Jareth's endless hints to trade it in for something flashier. Trade it for what? Another suffocating loan? She'd always counter. With their Southside Atlanta condo barely manageable on their current mortgage, talk of a new car felt ludicrous. The Wynn Corporate Center buzzed with its usual morning energy. Mr. Harlan, the security guard and a retired Marine, sipped coffee from his thermos, flipping through the morning paper. "Morning, Miss Wynne. Did you catch that Falcons game last night? They absolutely dominated. Reminds me of the '99 season." "You remember that?" Lyra smiled politely, even though football had never captured her interest. "I remember, Mr. Harlan. How are your grandkids? Growing fast, like weeds?" "The youngest is already mastering multiplication, and my wife, she's still canning everything in sight." I asked why, and she just said, "Remember the recession of '08? Lyra nodded knowingly and headed for the elevator. Generations shaped by scarcity never truly shed the habit of stockpiling. She and Jareth kept jars of pickled cucumbers and stewed peaches, all summer preserves from their family land, despite the ease of store-bought options. By the time she reached the marketing department, the office was a hive of activity. The coffee machine hummed, printers whirred, and phones rang incessantly. Across the partition, Shaniqua animatedly dissected a recent episode of The Wire with Serena. "Can you believe he got himself into trouble again?" Shaniqua exclaimed. "And his wife? She's a dead ringer for my mother-in-law. I was canning tomatoes yesterday and tried that old-school chow-chow recipe my grandmother used to make. Share it," piped up Kira, a bright-eyed recent Morehouse grad. "My partner ate the entire batch in one sitting." Lyra hung her jacket, placed her bag on her desk, and took in her private office, a small perk of her senior manager status. On the wall, a calendar with inspirational quotes, a gift from colleagues, reminded her of optimism in small doses. On the desk sat a photograph of her and Jareth on their last real vacation to Hilton Head, 3 years ago. Then came the mortgage crunch. Extra work piled on, and beach trips faded into distant memories. She powered on her computer, set the electric kettle to boil, and spread out her documents. Her neatly manicured fingers, the one luxury she allowed herself, danced across the keyboard as she prepared the quarterly report for a national retail client. Almost done, just a few final touches remained. Good morning, Busy Bee. A cheerful voice broke through. A Mary Dalton stood at her doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you could use some rocket fuel. Late night finishing that report, huh? Myra smiled, grateful. How did he always know? Jareth had been asleep before she got home, gone before she woke. Thanks, Amari. You're a lifesaver. She sipped the cinnamon cappuccino, just the way she liked it. After years of working together, Amari winked knowingly. How's the big account? Tamed it yet? Almost. Just a few charts left, she said. And you? Electronics account tangled, as always, he started, before being interrupted. Sable, the young secretary with bright pink nails and a matching blouse, burst in. Lyra, Mr. Davenport, is on the line urgent. Lyra's stomach flipped. The report? Did something go wrong? Her palms sweated, her mouth went dry. At 38, she still felt like a freshman when summoned by the boss. Everything okay? Amari asked, noticing her sudden tension. Lyra smoothed her skirt and adjusted her blouse. It has to be about the retail chain, right? I haven't submitted the final report yet, Lyra admitted, her voice tight. Don't worry, Amari reassured her, giving her elbow a comforting squeeze. Mr. Davenport is tough, but fair. Besides, you're the best marketer in the company. He knows that. If only, Lyra thought, making her way toward the CEO's office. In her 8 years at the company, she had learned a lot, but being called in for a one-on-one still triggered a wave of panic. Perhaps it was her upbringing. Her mother had always said, "Respect your boss and keep your head down. That's how you stay in good standing." The lesson was so deeply ingrained that even at 38, with 40 looming, she couldn't shake it. The CEO's reception area was imposing, reflecting the stature of its occupant. A massive mahogany desk dominated the room, surrounded by leather sofas for visitors. Abstract art adorned the walls, and oversized planters housed tropical plants that added life to the otherwise serious atmosphere. Sable, the secretary, pressed a button on her phone. "Mr. Davenport, Ms. Wynne is here." A low voice replied through the speaker. "Send her in." Lyra drew in a steadying breath and pushed open the door to the inner sanctum, the office of Sterling Davenport, CEO of Alpha Market. Davenport, a man in his early 50s with salt and pepper hair at his temples and a sharp, piercing gaze, looked up from his computer and gestured to the chair opposite him. "Lyra, have a seat," he said, adjusting his thin, gold-rimmed glasses. "Coffee?" "No, thank you," she murmured, her heartbeat suddenly loud in her ears. The last time they had met one-on-one had been a month ago, discussing the retail account strategy. Davenport leaned back, fingers tented, his stare unsettlingly precise. It always felt as if he could see right through her, all mistakes, insecurities, and doubts laid bare. "Well, I won't beat around the bush," he began, and Lyra felt her stomach tighten. "The board of directors and I have conferred and decided." He paused, and her heart almost stopped. "To offer you the position of head of marketing." Lyra blinked once, twice, as if waking from a dream. A roar filled her ears, reminiscent of standing on the Hilton Head Pier, waves crashing with unstoppable force. I'm the department head?" she asked, lips barely moving. "Why the surprise?" Davenport chuckled, his stern expression softening slightly. "You've been with the company 8 years. You know every process like the back of your hand. The staff respects you. It's a predominantly female team. They need a firm but fair hand, yours." "But Mr. Thornton," Lyra began, referring to the current department head, with whom she had always had a tense relationship. "Mr. Thornton is moving to corporate headquarters," Davenport interrupted. "He'll oversee all regional branches. We need someone in his place who won't drop the ball. You understand the times are challenging, competition is fierce, and we need fresh ideas, a new approach. I personally reviewed all your campaigns over the past year. Impressive work, especially on the retail chain. Sales increased by 30%. Lyra was speechless. Head of the department meant a completely new level of responsibility, a higher salary, an elevated status. I don't know if I can handle it," she admitted honestly. "Lyra," Davenport cut in, firm but encouraging, "I'm not offering this lightly. The company is growing. We need people who grow with it, who are ready to take responsibility and aren't afraid of challenges. I see your potential." He opened a folder before her. "Here are your performance metrics for the last quarter, 30% higher than the other managers. You know how to handle clients, understand the market, and possess an analytical mind. What else does a good leader need?" "Self-confidence, perhaps," Lyra smiled weakly. "That's earned on the job," she said. Davenport pushed the papers toward her. "Here's the draft for your appointment. Salary increases 40%, plus quarterly bonuses, a company car, and a personal parking space. What do you say?" Lyra skimmed the lines. Her heart raced. With this income, they could finally pay the mortgage without stress, maybe even save. The dream of a second child, once postponed due to finances, suddenly seemed plausible. I accept," she breathed. "Excellent." Davenport handed her a pen. "Sign here and here. You start Monday. In the meantime, familiarize yourself with the department's projects and prepare a work plan for the next quarter. Present it to me." On Monday, Lyra stepped out of the office, legs unsteady, clutching the order like it might vanish if she relaxed her grip. A promotion, a serious, life-changing promotion. Only this morning she had fretted over barely scraping together the mortgage. Now she could even save for repairs on her family land, the half-acre her parents left her, still cultivated each summer as a precaution. Times were uncertain, yes, but suddenly filled with possibility. "Well, were you hauled over the coals?" Amari's head popped around the corner, another cup of coffee in hand. Judging by her expression, he knew the answer before she spoke. It had been a rough morning, another budget crisis to navigate, and Lyra looked up at Amari, unsure whether to laugh or cry. She wanted to shout with joy, hug someone, share the news, but something held her back. What if I jinx it? Their office, like any workplace, had a mix of people. Some would genuinely celebrate her success, others would fume with envy. "Amari, you won't believe it," she started, then stopped herself, unwilling to announce her promotion before the official word. Besides, he might even have been in the running, despite being at the company fewer years. "I'll tell you later, okay? How about we go to the diner after work and celebrate?" she suggested. "A tease, are we?" Amari teased, wagging his finger. "Now I won't get any work done today out of curiosity. What happened?" Did you get a bonus for the retail project? Something like that, Lyra answered evasively. All right, back to work before you really get nothing done, Amari said, shaking his head as he left. Lyra finally allowed herself a wide smile. She and Amari had been friends since he joined the company 5 years ago, smart with gentle humor, nothing like the flashy big spenders of the 90s business scene. In another life, she thought, if she hadn't married Jareth Stop, what am I thinking? She scolded herself. She could have entertained the idea of a different life. She and Jareth had been together 12 years, meeting at a friend's birthday party and marrying 6 months later, a whirlwind her grandmother Mama Ara had deemed head over heels into trouble, the only family member against the union. Mama Ara, still suspicious of men after Zinaya's grandfather left for a younger woman, often muttered that all men were cut from the same cloth. Maybe that was why Lyra had never introduced Jareth to her grandmother before the wedding, or perhaps deep down she feared Mama would see flaws the lovesick bride couldn't. The phone rang, yanking her from thought. Jareth. Lyra, are you going to be late today? His voice sounded tight, off somehow. Strange. Why? What's wrong? She asked immediately, on edge. Lately, he often stayed late at work, claiming important meetings, returning after midnight smelling of cognac and cigars. Clients prefer a casual setting, he'd explained with a kiss on her cheek. Nothing, he drew out. I just need to talk. Something came up. I do too, Lyra thought, glancing at the promotion order on her desk. Then inspiration struck. What if I play a trick on him? Tell him I'd been fired, watch his reaction, then reveal the promotion? 40% more salary. This could solve nearly all our financial worries. You know, Jareth, my voice trembled with feigned anxiety. I also need to talk to you. Something happened at work. What happened? Did they fire you? His tone sharpened as if the weight of money worries had finally surfaced. Indeed, Lyra thought warmly, he was concerned about finances. In recent months, they often argued about money, Jareth struggling as a manager at a car dealership, sales sluggish in a tough economy. Listen, I didn't want to do this over the phone, she said, dramatic pause. But yes, can you believe it? Mr. Davenport called me in, and damn, I told you that's how it would end. Jareth's voice snapped. I told you to take that other project, but you kept insisting. I can handle it, idiot. Lyra froze. In 12 years of marriage, he had never called her that. What did you say? She whispered, distant. I'm sorry. His tone shifted immediately. I'm in a meeting, stressed. You caught me off guard. Can we talk tonight? I gotta go. Click. She slowly set the phone down, an unfamiliar tightness curling. In her chest, the prank had failed spectacularly. And why had he reacted like that? Trying to focus, she could only see his face. The same look from months ago when he returned tipsy from a corporate party and picked a fight over under-seasoned pot roast, irritable, but never crossing the line into insults. The phone rang again, making her jump, this time relief, her grandmother. Hello? Lyra, honey, how are you? You haven't visited in a while. I miss you. Mama's cheerful 83-year-old voice rang through. I miss you too, Grandma. I've been so busy. Work isn't going to run off into the woods, her grandmother chided, and Lyra smiled, remembering the saying from childhood. Come over today, okay? I baked your favorite apple pie and opened a jar of last year's raspberry compote, remember? I remember, Grandma. Tears sprung unexpectedly as she whispered, I got a promotion today. I'm the head of marketing. Oh, congratulations, honey. Mama cheered. I always knew you were smart. Things are working out. And Jareth, he happy? Myra hesitated. Leora hadn't told him yet. Well, she had, technically, but she said it as a joke. She told him she got fired. Why did I even think that was funny? Why? Her grandmother asked on the phone, clearly startled. I don't know, Leora admitted, rubbing her forehead. It was a stupid joke. And he actually got mad. Mad? Nana Elise's tone shifted instantly, sharper and more alert. Mad because he thought you lost your job? He should have been comforting you. That's exactly what I thought, Leora muttered, absent-mindedly spinning a pen in her hand. I didn't expect that kind of reaction. Oh, Leora, her grandmother sighed. I have always told you men think of themselves first. You remember your grandpa. But anyway, forget all that. Tell me, will you come over today? We need to celebrate your promotion. It's a big accomplishment. I can't today, Nana, Leora said with regret. I need to talk to Darian. He said he has news too. Fine, the old woman agreed. But promise me you'll come this weekend and bring Darian. I still haven't met him properly. 12 years married, and I've only seen his photos. I promise, Leora said, even though she knew Darian would almost certainly find a reason not to go like always. Work, a meeting, a migraine, anything. After hanging up, she tried to refocus on her spreadsheets. She really needed to finish the retail analysis and get the Monday presentation ready. But her mind kept circling back to Darian's reaction. Idiot. Why did he say that? Maybe it was stress. Maybe he didn't understand the joke. Maybe he was just tired. Though his voice didn't sound like he was at work. It sounded like he was at home. She dialed again. The subscriber is temporarily unavailable, the automated voice announced. Weird. His phone was off. Darian never turned off his phone, especially not when he claimed to be in an important meeting. A client could call at any moment. A strange tension pressed on her chest. Leora stepped to the window, watching the busy business district below. People rushing, couriers delivering, taxis honking, a normal day. Yet everything felt like it was shifting towards something big. You okay? Tavian appeared in the doorway with a stack of papers. You look distracted. Just some home stuff, Leora said, waving it off. Could you finish the retail tables? I can't focus at all. Tavian studied her expression closely. Something serious happened? I'm not sure, she admitted. Darian's been acting weird lately, and today... She stopped herself from mentioning the failed joke. Today I told him something and he got angry and called me an idiot. Tavian frowned. That's not supportive. But maybe he's dealing with something heavy at work. Or maybe he just didn't get the humor. Maybe, Leora said softly, appreciating him trying to give Darian the benefit of the doubt. I think I'm going to leave early. I need to talk to him properly. Something feels off. Our celebration at the diner? Tavian teased with a small smile. Another time, Leora replied with a weak smile of her own. I really think I need to sort this out today. My gut is yelling at me. Woman's intuition, he said, raising an eyebrow. They say it never lies. They say, she echoed. But I don't trust mine that much. Tavian stepped closer, gently squeezing her shoulder. Whatever happens, I'm here. Remember that. Something flickered in his eyes, something warm, something dangerous. It made her chest tighten. She'd always sensed a certain attention from him, but she forced herself not to interpret it. They were just colleagues, just friends. Nothing more. Mr. Calloway was surprised when she requested to leave early, but he didn't stop her. Of course, Leora. You deserve it. Promotions can be stressful even when they're good news. Just don't forget the presentation for Monday. I won't, she promised, rushing toward the exit. The May heat felt like July. She slipped off her jacket, walking quickly toward the parking area. She tried Darian's number again, still unavailable. Her stomach twisted. What if something had happened? An accident? No, she told herself. Ridiculous. He was probably in a meeting or underground somewhere with no signal. Their condo building was a typical late 80s high-rise in a working-class neighborhood. They'd bought it 5 years ago, when prices were low. 15-year mortgage, barely scraped together the down payment, parents helping where they could. They sacrificed everything for that place. She remembered how proud they were the day they got the keys. It wasn't new, and the renovations were half done, but it was theirs. Their little nest. The drive home usually took an hour. Today, she made it in 40 minutes. She parked, shut off the engine, and sat still for a few long breaths. What do I even say to him? Why am I so nervous? Will he even be home? She checked her phone. Still nothing from Darian. Here goes. Leora stepped out and headed toward the entrance. In the elevator, she ran into her neighbor, Miss Bernice, a retired woman who knew every bit of gossip in the building. Can you believe it, Leora? She burst out eagerly. Another scandal in Unit 14. That girl caught her boyfriend with the cashier from the corner store. The yelling. The whole floor heard it. The whole building came running with the noise. You don't say, Leora replied, absently, her mind tangled in her own worries. And how's your husband? Still working so hard? Miss Bernice asked, lowering her voice. I saw him around noon today. Did he take the day off? Leora froze. Noon? Of course noon, the neighbor sniffed. I was coming back from the clinic, and he was walking out of the building. Looked perfectly fine to me. Strange time to be home, if you ask me. Maybe he wasn't feeling well. The elevator reached their floor, and Leora muttered, Excuse me, I'm in a hurry, rushing out before the doors fully opened. So Darian had been home at noon. Not at work. Not in a meeting. Home, and with his phone turned off. Why? She slid her key into the lock, turning it slowly. The hinges didn't make a sound. She had oiled them recently. The hallway light was on. Darian? She called quietly, slipping off her shoes. Are you home? Silence. Maybe Miss Bernice mistook someone else for him, Leora thought desperately. Maybe it wasn't him at all. Then she heard voices, coming from the kitchen. One was unmistakably her husband's, the other, a woman's. Leora's entire body stiffened. Her heart slammed against her ribs. No. It couldn't be what she was thinking. Darian would never. He couldn't. She moved closer, silently, staying just outside the doorway. Are you sure she has no clue? The woman asked. Absolutely. Darian snorted. That fool believes every word I say. 12 years she's believed it. Imagine that. The floor seemed to vanish beneath her. Leora had to grab the wall to stay upright. Fool. He called her a fool behind her back. The man she trusted for 12 years. 12 years is a long time, the woman replied with a low laugh. Her voice was youthful, slightly raspy. But you said her grandmother owns some fancy brownstone downtown? Fancy is an understatement, Darian said proudly. 3-bedroom brownstone in West Haven. 3-meter ceilings, huge rooms. It's worth a small fortune. You don't find places like that anymore, and you're sure the inheritance goes to Leora? The woman, Kara, sounded skeptical. 100%. Darian spoke with disgusting confidence. She's the only blood relative left. The old woman worships her, and she signed everything over. I've already handled the paperwork. Leora felt sick. Handled? How? Kara asked. I found a lawyer who drew up everything properly. The property goes to Leora, and since we're married, half of it becomes mine. Kara finished for him, sounding amused. Exactly, Darian chuckled. But we still need to wait for the old lady to drop dead, and who knows when she will. That's not a problem. His voice lowered, and Leora had to lean in to catch it. Remember my friend Rhett? Works at a care center. He can get Nana Elise admitted there for rehabilitation. After that, well, old people die like flies there. Nobody questions it. And Leora and I become the heirs. Daria. You're awful, Kara giggled. What if your wife refuses to send her grandmother away? She agree, he said confidently. I keep feeding her lies about our finances, the mortgage, the debt. Then I'll suggest selling the brownstone, buying something modest, and clearing everything. Maybe even get a new car. She'd go for it. She's too soft. And if that fails? Kara asked, flicking a lighter. Leora could smell the cigarette smoke drifting into the hallway. I have a backup, Darian replied, lighting his own cigarette. Divorce. I'll demand half of our place. It's worthless compared to the brownstone, but half of something is better than nothing. But you'll lose everything else. Not necessarily, he said casually. I've kept up this loving husband act for over a decade. I deserve something for my time. They both burst into laughter, a cruel, sharp sound that slashed through Leora's chest. 12 years. 12 years of lies, manipulation, and planning. Their marriage, their future, their dream of having a child, all of it. An act. Images flashed through her mind. Darian discouraging her from visiting Nana Elise. Daria. N single quotes. S tension whenever inheritance was mentioned. Darian pushing the idea of assisted living, claiming it would be better care. She thought it was love. It was strategy. You need to go, Darian suddenly said. Leora might come home, but you said she'd be late. Something about work. She called earlier and said she got fired. She could show up any minute. Not risking it. Fired? Kara whistled. Then you definitely need her grandmother's place. You can't handle the mortgage alone. Exactly, Darian growled. 12 years I put up with her, and she can't even keep her job. All right, I'm leaving, Kara said. I'll call you tonight, Leora scrambled. They would walk out of the kitchen any second. If they saw her, she didn't know what they would do. She tiptoed to the door, unlocking it with trembling hands, slipping outside just in time. Her heartbeat thundered so loudly, she thought the entire building could hear it. She ran down one flight of stairs and stopped, chest heaving, vision blurry. What now? Where do I go? What can I do? Her head was a mess of overheard fragments, and each one was more painful than the last. That idiot believes everything I tell her. 83. She won't last forever. I've already taken care of everything. Zenaya suddenly remembered that a year ago, her grandmother was hospitalized with a suspected stroke. The doctors never made a definitive diagnosis, but prescribed a ton of medication. Killian had volunteered to buy the drugs and take them to Mama Era himself. You're too busy with work, he'd said. Could it be? Could he have switched the medication? The thought made Zenaya feel even sicker. She went down the stairs and out onto the street. May was generous with its warmth. The sun bathed the courtyard. Children played loudly on the playground. Mothers discussed the latest gossip. Normal life, which had been her life just a couple of hours ago, now felt like a set for someone else's play. Zenaya got into her car but didn't start the engine. She took out her phone and aimlessly scrolled through her contacts. Who should she call? Who could she tell? Her mother? She lived in another state, and what would she say? I told you not to rush into marriage. I told you to look closely at him. Her friends? Over the years of marriage and endless work, almost all her connections had faded. All that was left were formal relationships with colleagues. Her finger stopped on Amari's name. He always understood her without a word, always supportive. And if not, I'm always here. Remember that, he had said today as if he knew. She hit call, her hands shaking. Zenaya? Amari's voice sounded surprised. You're home already? Is everything all right? Her voice broke and she coughed, trying to hold back a sob. Amari, can I meet you right now? Of course. She heard some rustling on the line. What happened? Where are you? Near the condo? Well, not exactly. Sitting in the... Amari sat across from her, concern written all over his face. What happened? Did you fight with your husband? If only... Zenaya shook her head. Amari, you won't believe it. I still don't believe it myself. Tell me. He covered her hand with his. I'm listening. And Zenaya told him haltingly, jumping from one topic to the next, but laying out everything. The promotion, the stupid joke about being fired, Killian's strange reaction, and the overheard conversation. With every word, she felt lighter, as if the weight inside was melting away, leaving only a dull ache. 12 years, Amari, she whispered, weeping again. 12 years he was pretending, and I really loved him. Truly loved him. Maybe you misunderstood something, Amari suggested cautiously. Who knows what they were talking about? I understood perfectly, Zenaya smiled bitterly. That idiot believes everything I tell her. 12 years she's believed it. What's there to misunderstand? He married me for my grandmother's condo. And judging by everything... double quote, she trailed off, unable to voice the horrible suspicion. Judging by what? Amari frowned. He's even ready to hurt my grandmother, Zenaya finished quietly. He talked about a nursing home where old people die like flies, and that he found some lawyer who drafted the will properly. Amari, I'm scared. What if he's already done something? I need to go to Grandma's right now. Let's go, Amari said decisively, standing up. I'm with you. You remember the address? Of course. Zenaya stood up too. The West End, 16th Street, apartment 54. I grew up there. On the way to her grandmother's, Zanaya nervously tapped her fingers on the steering wheel while Amari sat beside her, worry in his eyes. "Maybe I should drive," he offered. "You're too agitated." "No, I'm fine," she insisted. "At least this keeps me busy, or I'll go crazy thinking about it." The car moved slowly through the thick evening Atlanta traffic. Zanaya became increasingly tense. "I'm going to try calling Grandma," she said, dialing the number. On speakerphone, long rings, 1, 2, 3. "No answer. Maybe she can't hear it," Amari suggested. "Older people often Grandma hears perfectly," Zanaya interrupted. "And she always keeps her phone on her. I bought her a simple flip phone with big buttons specifically for that. And she never, you hear me, never leaves a call unanswered." She dialed the number again. Same result. Damn it. Zanaya hit the steering wheel with her palm. "I should have gone straight there, not to the diner." "Don't blame yourself," Amari said gently. "You were in shock. It's normal." "Nothing about this is normal," Zanaya grumbled, peering at the road. "How could I have been so blind? 12 years. Mom told me even back then. It's too fast. Look at him more closely." And I said, "He loves me, Mom. I feel it. Idiot. A real idiot." "Stop," Amari gently touched her shoulder. "You're not an idiot. You just trusted a man you loved. There's nothing shameful in that." "But how could I not notice?" Zanaya shook her head. "Now looking back, I see so many strange things. How tense he always got when Grandma came up. How he didn't want to meet her. How cautiously he fished for details about the will." "We never see what we don't want to see," Amari said philosophically, "especially when it comes to loved ones." Zanaya threw a quick glance at him. His profile against the darkening sky looked so familiar yet somehow new. Strangely, it was on this terrible day that she thought of Amari not just as a friend and colleague for the first time. "Look," he suddenly exclaimed, "you can cut right there through the side streets." Zanaya turned as he suggested. Indeed, the traffic was lighter here. "How do you know this neighborhood?" she asked, surprised. "I grew up here," Amari smiled. "In that apartment building, see? Then my parents sold the place and we moved to the suburbs." "Wow, I never knew that." Zanaya felt a stab of shame. They had worked together for so many years, and she knew almost nothing about his life outside the office. "My grandmother and I could have been neighbors." "Maybe," Amari nodded. "Fate. It's a funny thing." For the rest of the drive, they were silent, each lost in their own thoughts. Zanaya mentally ran through possible scenarios. What would she say to Killian when and if she returned home? How would she live her life now? Where would she go? And what about her grandmother? Maybe she should take her in, but under the same roof as Killian? No, impossible. "We're here," Zanaya announced, parking near the old stately brownstone with facade decorations. "Grandma lives on the 4th floor. The elevator breaks down often, so we might have to walk." "I'm ready for the 10th floor without an elevator," Amari assured her, getting out of the car. Fortunately, the elevator was working. Going up to the 4th floor, Zanaya went straight to the door she had known since childhood, bearing the bronze number 54. She rang the bell. Silence. She rang again, holding the button longer. Still no reaction. Grandma Zanaya started knocking on the door. "Grandma, it's me, Zanaya. Open up." An older woman in a bathrobe peeked out from the neighboring apartment. "Why are you knocking?" No one's home. The ambulance came earlier today. They took your grandmother away. Zanaya's legs felt weak. They took her where? What's wrong with her? How should I know? The neighbor shrugged. I saw them carrying her out on a stretcher through the window. She seemed conscious, saying goodbye to everyone. Who called the ambulance? I don't know. Maybe she called herself. Which hospital? They didn't say something like Grady Memorial, but I'm not sure. The neighbor, Miss Beatrice, looked at them suspiciously. And who are you exactly? I'm her granddaughter, Zinaya managed to say. Her only relative. Oh, it's you, Zinaya. The woman's face softened. Era often talks about you, always praising you, saying how smart you are. I'm Miss Beatrice. We've been neighbors for 30 years. Would you like some tea? I just baked a sweet potato pie. Thank you, but we need to rush to the hospital. Zinaya was already pulling out her phone. Do you know who exactly called the ambulance? Who knows? Miss Beatrice spread her hands. Maybe your husband. He came by today. Zinaya froze. My husband? Yes, the distinguished one in the suit. The neighbor nodded. I hadn't seen him before, but he said he was Zinaya's husband. He came around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, then I didn't see him again. Maybe he left while I ran to the store. Zinaya and Amari exchanged glances. The same question was in both their eyes. What was Killian doing at Mama Era's? Thank you so much, Miss Beatrice. Zinaya forced a smile. We're heading to the hospital. When they left the building, Zinaya clutched her head. It was him. He did something to Grandma. First he visited her, then they had to call an ambulance. Amari, what do we do? First, calm down, Amari said firmly. We don't know for sure what happened. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Let's call Grady and find out if Era is there. He took out his phone and found the number for the emergency department. After a few minutes of talking with the charge nurse, Amari got confirmation. Yes, Elara Ada was admitted today with a suspected stroke. Her condition is stable, but visitors are prohibited for now. A stroke? Zinaya repeated. When he relayed the information, she had a suspected stroke a year ago, but the diagnosis wasn't confirmed. Then she suddenly stopped. Oh God, what if it was Killian then too? What if he somehow gave her something? Don't jump to conclusions, Amari squeezed her hand. Your grandmother is 83. Health problems at that age are common. You don't have to assume malice. But the timing is too perfect. Zinaya shook her head. First he tells his mistress about the plan with a nursing home where old people die like flies. Then he goes to Grandma's, and a couple of hours later an ambulance takes her away. I don't believe in coincidences like that. Amari thought for a moment. All right, let's be logical. If he really did something, it should leave traces. The hospital can run tests and identify foreign substances. If they look, Zinaya noted grimly, they'll probably just chalk it up to age and chronic illness. Who would think to test an 83-year-old woman for poisoning? Then we need to go to the police, Amari said decisively. We'll tell them about our suspicions. With what? Zinaya smiled bitterly. Hello. I overheard my husband talking to his mistress, and I think he wants to poison my grandmother for her condo. They'll laugh us out of the precinct. What if we find the woman? Amari suggested. Did you see her? Can you identify her? A glimpse from the back? Zinaya shrugged. A young blonde in a short dress. There are a million of those in Atlanta. They got back into the car but didn't rush to leave. Zinaya leaned back in the seat, closing her eyes. "You know what the worst part is?" she said quietly. "Even if we can't prove anything, I know the truth now. I know my marriage was a sham, that the man I lived with for 12 years was lying to me, using me, calling me an idiot behind my back." Her voice wavered. "How do I live with that now, Amari?" "One day at a time," he replied. "At first it hurts a lot, then a little less, then even less, and one day you wake up and realize the pain is gone. That's how it is with all wounds, physical and emotional." Sounds like a quote from a psychology book. Zinaya smiled faintly. "It's from personal experience." Amari smiled too, but sadly. "I went through a betrayal too. My ex-wife left me for my best friend. Cliché like a daytime drama, but it doesn't hurt any less." "You never told me," Zinaya said, surprised. "You never asked," he shrugged. "Everyone has their scars, Zinaya. But you know what? They make us stronger. Or at least more interesting, Amari." Zinaya suddenly straightened. "I have a chance to change everything now." "In what way?" "I got the promotion this morning, remember? I'm the head of marketing now with a serious raise. I can pay the mortgage myself. I don't need Killian. What about his share of the condo?" "To hell with that condo," Zinaya waved. "We'll sell it, split it, whatever. I'd rather rent a room and know he's not around." That she couldn't find the word and just waved her hand. "And how will you handle it? Will you tell him straight up that you know everything?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Not yet. First, I need to make sure Grandma is okay. Let's go to the hospital." "But they won't let us in," Amari reminded her. "It's late." "They will," Zinaya insisted, starting the engine. "Miss Beatrice said Grandma was conscious when they took her. That means she asked about me and she be waiting. And if they don't let us in officially, we'll go unofficial." "You said you'd always be there." "Always," Amari nodded seriously. When they arrived at the hospital, it was already dark. Zinaya nervously checked her phone. Killian still hadn't called. Strange. Usually if she was late, he called every half hour. Did he not even notice her absence? Or did he notice but assume she was at work like she'd said this morning? "I'm going to find out what room Grandma is in," Zinaya said, getting out of the car. "I'll go with you," Amari began, but she shook her head. "No, it's better if I go alone. Less attention." She walked decisively toward the main entrance. Countless times she had passed through these doors visiting colleagues, relatives, friends. But today, everything was different. Today, her grandmother was inside, and perhaps not by accident. The stern nurse at the reception desk looked up at her tiredly. "Visiting hours ended 2 hours ago. Come back tomorrow between 9 and 12. "I understand, but my grandmother was just admitted today," Zinaya said steadily. Ada. Suspected stroke. "I have to see her even for 5 minutes." "The rules are the same for everyone," the nurse said without looking at the computer. "Come back tomorrow." Zinaya felt irritation rise inside her. Normally she would have walked away, but too much was at stake. "Now listen," she lowered her voice and leaned closer. "I have reason to believe my grandmother is in danger, that she might have been poisoned." The nurse finally looked up, eyes narrowing. "Poisoned? Are you serious?" "Absolutely," Zinaya said, pouring every ounce of conviction into her voice. "Please, I need to see the head of the department or the doctor on call. This is critically important. Wait here, the nurse said, rising and disappearing behind a staff-only door. Zinaya clutched her purse strap, breath unsteady. What if they didn't believe her? What if they sent her away? What if, hello, I'm Dr. Evelyn Stone, the doctor on call. A middle-aged woman in a white coat appeared. You're Ada's relative? The granddaughter Xenia said quickly. How is she? What's wrong? Her condition is stable, but we had to sedate her. She was very agitated upon admission. Agitated? Zinaya repeated. In what sense? She was yelling that someone was trying to kill her, the doctor said calmly, studying Zinaya's reaction. She mentioned a Chiron, the doctor repeated slowly. Is that your husband? Myra's breath hitched. Yes. Well, until tonight, yes. Listen. She leaned closer, voice trembling but determined. You need to test her blood. I'm convinced someone tried to poison her. Dr. Leora Stone narrowed her eyes. That is a serious allegation. Do you have any concrete reason for suspecting this? I do, Myra nodded firmly. Chiron visited my grandmother today. A few hours later, she collapsed. And earlier, I accidentally overheard him discussing a plan to get rid of her because he wants her apartment. You understand the gravity of what you're claiming? The doctor asked gently. I do. And I'm prepared to go to the police. But first, I need to know she's safe. Dr. Stone hesitated, then finally gave a short nod. All right. I'll order additional labs. And I'll authorize a brief visit. 10 minutes only, and only if she's conscious. Thank you, Myra whispered, relief flooding her chest. Thank you so much. The doctor guided her toward the ICU. At the door, Myra paused, her heart pounding against her ribs. On the bed lay Adaya, small, fragile, nearly swallowed by wires and monitors. Her silver hair was fanned across the pillow, and though her face looked tired and sunken, it still carried the quiet dignity everyone knew her for, sometimes admired, sometimes feared. Grandma, Myra whispered, dragging a stool closer and gently touching the thin hand. Grandma, it's me, Myra. The old woman's eyelids fluttered. For a few seconds she stared vacantly, then her gaze shifted and finally focused. Myra. She breathed. You came? Of course I did. Myra swallowed hard, trying not to cry. The moment I heard. What happened? Tell me. Adaya tried to push herself up, but Myra softly eased her back. Don't sit up. Just talk. I'm right here. The old woman swallowed painfully. Your Chiron came. He brought tea, said it was from you. Said you were busy at some urgent meeting. Myra stiffened. And then, Adaya continued, I started feeling strange. The room spun. My heart felt like it would burst. I couldn't breathe, she gasped weakly. He tried to kill me, Myra. I heard him on the phone, talking about that place where old people drop like flies. He thought I was in the bathroom, but I heard every word. A cold wave washed over Myra. The same words she had heard Chiron say that afternoon. Grandma, she squeezed her hand tightly, fiercely. I know, I heard everything too. I'm not letting him anywhere near you again. Not ever. Adaya gave a faint, brittle smile. You always were the smart one. My pride, but unlucky with men. Just like I was. Myra remembered the story how her grandmother had become a widow young, remarried unwisely, and left the second husband the moment she realized he only wanted her house. History repeats. Myra thought bitterly. Don't worry, she said softly. We're going to fix all of it. Your health is what matters now. I'll handle Chiron. Just then Dr. Stone entered. Your time is up, she said gently. Adaya needs rest. Just one more minute, Myra begged. She leaned close to her grandmother's ear. I'll be back tomorrow. And you're safe now. The doctors will take care of you. I made sure of it. My girl? Adaya whispered, touching her cheek. Don't do anything reckless. He's dangerous. I'll be careful, Myra promised. She kissed her grandmother's forehead and stepped out. Ryan was waiting in the hallway. One look at her face and he asked, What did she say? It's exactly what we suspected, Myra said quietly. Chiron tried to poison her. And she heard every detail about the nursing home, the dying residents. Everything matches. Damn, Ryan exhaled. So what now? Now? Myra straightened, exhausted but resolute. We go to the police. It was well past midnight when Mira and Ryan left the precinct. They had filed an official report, but without toxicology results, nothing major would be done yet. So what's the plan now? Ryan asked once they were in the car. I'm not going home, Myra said simply. That's for sure. You can stay at my place, Ryan offered. The couch is comfortable. Thank you. Myra touched his arm gratefully. But I need to pick up a few things from the apartment first, and honestly, I want to confront Chiron. Tonight. Ryan looked alarmed. Are you sure? After what you learned? I'm sure. Her voice was steady. I need to look him in the eyes, tell him exactly who he is, and get my documents, jewelry, my laptop, everything important. Then I'm coming with you. Ryan insisted. No. Double quote. Myra shook her head. I have to face him alone. But you can wait downstairs in the car. And if I'm not out in 30 minutes, call the police. Ryan wanted to argue, but the resolve in her voice silenced him. Fine, but be careful. When they reached the building, the lights were on in the 5th floor window. Kyren was home. Myra inhaled deeply, fighting the tremor in her hands. 30 minutes, Ryan reminded her softly. If anything happens, call immediately. Agreed. She stepped out, walked toward the entrance, and pressed the elevator button. Inside the mirrored walls, she stared at her reflection, pale skin, messy hair, eyes swollen from crying. You look awful, Myra, her grandmother would have said, but beneath the exhaustion and fear, something new stirred, a quiet, burning resolve. She had nothing left to lose. 12 years with a man who never loved her. Now she knew the truth, and truth was freedom. Elevator chimed. The front door clicked open. The moment she pushed the key into the lock, the door opened and Chiron stood there, freshly shaved, wearing home pants and a crisp shirt as if he were about to step out. Where have you been? He asked instead of greeting her. I tried calling. Your phone was off. Myra walked past him silently into the apartment. Everything spotless, neat, sterile, the shared place that had never truly felt like a home. You didn't respond to my call this morning, she said, turning toward him, about being fired. Oh, that, Chiron waved dismissively. I was busy. And what's there to talk about? You'll find another job. I won't, Myra replied with a small knowing smile. Because I wasn't fired, he frowned. What? I was promoted, Myra said calmly. I'm the new marketing director now. 1.5 times the salary. I played a joke on you, pretended I got fired just to surprise you later. Funny, right? Funny, Kyron echoed without even a hint of a smile. Why would you joke like that? I don't know, Myra shrugged. Maybe I wanted to see your reaction. You didn't call to check on me, didn't ask how I was, didn't care your wife suddenly lost her job. Kyron shrugged again. I was busy. And you always fix things. You always manage. Yes, Myra nodded slowly. I always manage. And today, I had to manage something else, like the fact that my husband tried to poison my grandmother. She's in the hospital, Kyron. His face stiffened instantly. What nonsense is this? Don't act, Myra said wearily. I know everything. Your plan to send her to that nursing home where people die like flies, your little girlfriend you discussed it with, and the tea you brought to Grandma Adaya today. You're insane. Kyron stepped back. What poison tea? I only visited her, brought her some snacks. She's your only family. I wanted to show I care. How very caring, Myra said with a bitter smile. Yet right after your visit she lands in the hospital. And she heard your call about the nursing home. So don't bother denying it. Kyron's expression shifted. The mask of the devoted husband fell away, leaving only cold calculation. Prove it, he hissed. You can't. She's senile, over 80. No one will believe her. They'll believe the toxicology results, Myra countered, which the hospital is running right now. And they'll believe the recording of this conversation that I'm making on my phone at this moment. She pulled out her phone, the blinking red light visible on the screen. It was a bluff. The recording had started only after she entered, but Kyron didn't know that. He paled. You can't. I can, Myra cut him off, and I already have. The police report is filed. Grandma gave her statement. And now this recording. Do you know how much time they give for attempted murder of an elderly person? Kyron collapsed into a chair, face buried in his hands. It was her, he muttered. Verena. She came up with the nursing home plan. I didn't want to. I just agreed. But you brought the tea, Myra said sharply. So don't shift the blame. She walked into the bedroom, pulled out a small suitcase, and started packing documents, clothes, laptop, pictures of her parents. She grabbed her makeup bag and toothbrush. Then she returned to the living room, took down their wedding photo, removed it from the frame, and tore it in half. What are you doing? Kyron asked, stunned. Leaving, Myra replied simply. We'll finalize the divorce in court. We'll sell the apartment and split the money. I don't care, take your share, go wherever you want. Just stay away from my grandmother. If you try anything, I swear I'll put you in prison. You can't just walk out. His voice cracked. 12 years, Myra. We were fine. You were fine, she corrected. I wasn't, and surprisingly, I'm grateful to you. For what? He asked, bewildered. For opening my eyes. She looked at him straight on. It's better to know a painful truth than live a comfortable lie. Goodbye, Kyron. And yes, don't forget you'll be paying the mortgage alone now. I'm unemployed, just like you wanted. With that, Myra lifted her suitcase and walked out, closing the door softly behind her. Outside, Ryan was waiting. He silently took the suitcase and placed it in the trunk. Everything okay? He asked as they got into the car. Now? Myra exhaled deeply, feeling a weight lift from her chest. Yes, you know. I realized I'm free for the first time in 12 years. And what will you do with your freedom? Ryan smiled. First, I'm going to sleep. Myra laughed lightly. Tomorrow I'll visit Grandma. Then I'll start my new job as department head, by the way. And after that, we'll see. They drove through the glowing Atlanta night as the city lights shimmered like promises of new paths and new beginnings. Myra stared out the window, thinking how strangely everything had unfolded. This morning she planned a harmless prank about losing her job, and by evening her entire life had turned upside down. If my great-grandfather knew his brownstone would cause this much drama, she thought wryly, remembering how Adaya always told the story. Leora found herself thinking again about her father, an engineer who had designed nearly half the bridges scattered across the city. Her grandmother always told the story of how he received the deed directly from the mayor's hands. Those were different days, her grandmother would sigh. Back then, people were valued for what they built, not for how much they owned. What's on your mind? Caden asked, noticing the small smile tugging at her lips. I was just thinking about how much has changed these last few years, Leora said quietly. And how a few things somehow never change at all. Like what? Like the fact that you only truly discover who your real friends are when life turns upside down. She touched his arm with gratitude. Thank you. For everything. Always, he replied without hesitation. Where exactly are we going? She asked. I'm not sure, Leora admitted with a breath. Can I stay at your place for a couple of days? Just until I look for a short-term place or figure out my next step. Of course, Caden said, only warning my cat lives there too. And he's as rude and full of attitude as every cat I've ever met. I adore cats, Leora laughed. Especially the rude, dramatic ones. For the first time in months, she felt weightless, as if she had finally peeled off every layer of a suffocating marriage and all the fear, hesitation, and insecurity that came with it. Ahead of her was a future messy, unpredictable, maybe even painful, but it would be her future, her life. You know something? She said, lifting her eyes to the star-flecked sky. I'm actually grateful for everything that happened today. The failed joke ended up being the luckiest twist I could have asked for. Every cloud has its silver lining, Caden said with a soft grin. My grandma used to say that. Pretty sure all grandmas did, Leora chuckled. And once again, they were right. The car eased onto a quiet street, carrying them away from everything that belonged to yesterday, and steering them toward whatever tomorrow had in store. No one knew what waited for them, but there was something beautiful, almost hopeful hidden inside that uncertainty. And Leora felt ready for all of it. Did this story touch your heart? And from which city are you listening? Tell me in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, your support means the world. You can send a super thanks so I can continue bringing you more heartfelt stories every week. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to read your thoughts. On your screen now, you'll find 2 more powerful life stories I truly recommend. There's so much more waiting on the channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.